Hello, this is Chas with Heirloom Leaves and Seeds, and today I wanted to talk to you about the life of flowers that you get from the farmer's market, and most specifically mine. So, last Saturday at the farmer's market, I came in and I had a few mini bouquets left over, and I just sat them on the table, and quite honestly, I forgot about them. And I went ahead and I put these guys in some fresh water, but I wanted to show you what happened. So this is day 6 going on 7, but look how nasty that water is. So you want to avoid this. Definitely should have changed this water out days ago. Whenever you put your flowers in a container or a vase, I like to use clear glass because you can see the condition of the water. You can see if it's starting to get a little bit murky, and you can also see if there is any leaves under the water level, because when you put your flowers in a vase, you don't want any leaves to be under the water level, because if they are, that can breed bacteria and harmful things, and that is going to make your vase life shorter. You might lose a couple days if they're in some water that has turned murky and it's got bacteria in it. A lot of people at the farmers market ask me, how long can they expect their bouquets to last? And I thought I would do this video because this is day 6 here. And let me just show you. Everything looks pretty good. Sweet William, of course, looks great. The Gomphrena, the Salvia. I've got some Queen of Africa in there. The mint still looks good. Feverfew, Zinnia. It looks like a few of the petals are starting to brown just on one side, but that one still looks good. The mint still looks great. Overall, it looks pretty good. I did take out, this is a gypsophilia, and the flowers were done, and that's just what they do. And a few phlox. These are actually dry, but this is what they naturally do. This is what they even do out in the garden. And they will just naturally deadhead themselves, and their little petals will fall to the ground. And then this, I had one of these left over, and this is one of my larger bouquets, and they all seem to be doing pretty good too. This has this really big Asiatic lily, and some of the coreopsis here, the flowers have just started to dry, but they're actually staying on. Petals are not dropping, they're actually staying on. They're just naturally drying, so that's good. They're not falling down onto the surface, but everything looks good. There is some daylily petals down in here, but it is holding it inside. Of course, status will. The Queen of Africa, I've got some in here as well, but they're all looking pretty good. So this is day 6, and they're still looking pretty good. And another thing is, when you say the water is starting to look a little bit murky, what you can do is you can take the flowers out and replace the water with some nice, clean, cool water. And I would give the jar a clean as well, because that bacteria in there, it can get a little slimy and gross. So clean that jar out quick while you've got your flowers out. And you can trim the stems at an angle. Now I'll give these guys a little bit of a trim. This water has stayed really nice because I did put these in fresh water as soon as I got them home, and I haven't messed with it since. So just gonna trim them off, And try to cut at a little bit of an angle because you don't want them to sit perfectly flat on the bottom of the glass jar. And this will just help them take up water a little bit. Now, a lot of people will wonder about flower food. I don't put it in. I just put them in a little bit of water that's nice and cool, and that's it. But you can Google online, you can add bleach, you can add pop, citrusy pop like Sprite, 7 Up, stuff like that. But honestly, I just put them in water and they seem to do just fine. And another thing I hear sometimes is that people will want to set their vase in direct sunlight, or they think they need sun. And that's not true because they're cut right now. So they don't particularly need the sun, especially direct sun. And I like to put mine in a cooler area away from direct light because as a flower farmer, whenever I pick flowers, I want to get them out of the heat. I want to get them out of the sun because they're cut now, and that will just make them more prone to wilt and probably lessen their vase life. So I like to put them in a nice place out of direct light and keep them a little cool. Trying to think, I think that's all the tips I have. But like I said, these guys are almost a week old and they are still looking pretty good. And oh, one more thing is, say you do have a flower that's not looking its best and you notice it in your vase. And let's see, here's a little stem of yarrow. So what you will want to do is when everything else looks good and one doesn't, is you can just pull it out and you can just keep it out so it doesn't start to decline in the water, because I've had in the past, just if one stem of flower starts to go downhill, it can even start growing mold, and that will not be good for the other flowers. So if you just see one, you don't have to toss the whole bouquet. Just take that one stem out and go ahead and get rid of that and just keep on as usual. Now, if that did happen to get moldy or the water's murky, just like any other time, just switch that water out. And I've even kind of washed off the stem. Like, say if they were in there and mold was growing along, I would run it under fresh, clean water and just kind of do this and clean them off. I think that is all of the little tips and tricks I can think of. And another thing is, whenever you get your bouquets, and what I will do is say this is a bouquet, I have these little bags that you can compost later on, and I put them in the bag. I will put a paper towel, and then I have a little squeeze bottle, and I will put water in there, and then I'll wrap it with a rubber band. And I'll do that to get the bouquet home to you without it drying the stems out, and I'll have a little bit of water in there. And this is just to get it home and keep it as good as we can until it gets home. So what you don't want to do is, no matter where you get your bouquet, you don't want to get it at the first stop and then go shopping all day and leaving it in a hot car, because that will definitely wilt your flowers. I had several customers want to go out of state, and I'll tell them, just keep it in the bag till you get home, put it in a little jar, and then you can travel with it in a jar like this and they'll do fine. But keep in mind as well, you want to try to keep it out of the sunlight while you're traveling. You don't want it to be sitting right up front with sun beaming down on it. Now, for anyone who has seen my short that I posted on Wednesday, I am going to show you a little update on those tussock caterpillars. Now I'll show it over here, and it is so crazy because These guys, if you remember, they were down lower on the milkweed and they have went up. They're just slowly climbing up the milkweed and they have eaten several leaves already. And this is just from one day to the next. And it's just crazy how quick they can eat all of those leaves. And if you've seen it, just it looks like they started on the bottom and have just worked their way all the way to the top, and they've only got a few up here left. So I will definitely be checking in on those guys tomorrow morning to see what where they're at on that plant. I don't know if they'll move to another one. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep an eye on them. So I hope you guys have a good day and a nice weekend, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.